Yes? That work? All right, I'm getting head shakes and thumbs up. All right, super. Here we go. Go for it, Becky.
All right. So just again, wanted to thank everybody for joining us. Let everyone know that as you join, you are coming in muted. That's just to kind of keep keep it so that everybody can hear, so everyone's not hearing background noise. We will allow people to unmute yourselves at the end when we do Q&A. If you have a question you'd like to ask out loud. In the meantime, you can use the chat function down at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, Brian. If you're on Zoom on your computer, down at the bottom, there's that little word bubble that says chat. You can click on that, send a chat. Just make sure that you try to send it so that everyone can see it. If it is a question about the project or something that you'd like us to answer publicly, otherwise you can send it to a team member privately. We may not be able to answer it during the presentation, but we will keep track of all of that information that we receive. And then if you're on your phone, you can also do the chat. If you go down to the lower right-hand corner of your screen where it says more and click on it, it'll give you a chat option. I don't think we have the Facebook Live feed going yet, but if you're joining that way, you won't be able to participate in the live Q&A or the mapping workshop. So we encourage everyone to hop on the Zoom if you do want to participate in the mapping workshop. The link is below. And then if you're joining from CC Woodson, you can direct any questions to city staff and they'll make sure to send them to us and make sure that we can hear them. So you can go to the website after this presentation to learn a lot more about the project and to participate in a bunch of interactive tools. The Planapalooza page will have updates as we go through the weekend. This event is going to take place now through Monday with a closing presentation on Wednesday, so stay tuned for updates. And we'll also be recording this meeting and all other meetings and making those available on the website soon. Let Brian have it back.
All right, thank you so much. So my name is Brian Wright. I'm the principal of Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative, and we are co-leading this project with City Explained. We've got on my team is Becky Timmons, who you just heard from. She's managing the project. We have Gortza Zevic. She's our graphic designer who will work on making the document an incredible, exciting thing to look at. And she's been doing all the great marketing materials that we've been sending out as well. And then we have Jessica Beekler, who is one of our planners, urban designers. She'll be working on the project this week as well. Jessica just got married this weekend, past weekend, so we'll update her name on the slide next time. So well, remind us of that, Jessica. Matt Noonkester is the principal of City Explained, and Matt is on here with us. And we also have Jara Smith, who works for Matt. And they'll be working on a lot of the analytical side of things with looking at the data and trying to understand the infrastructure and some scenario planning and things like that in the future. We also have a bunch of different experts and specialists on the team. We have Chauncey Lundy, who is on this Zoom with us. Chauncey is going to be focused on equity planning for us. We have James Rojas, who is a specialist in equity outreach, as well as Gwen Jackson, who also is an equity outreach specialist. We have tool design, Ernie, and is going to be here some this weekend. Our economist is Trip Muldrow from Arnett Muldrow Associates, and Jeff Hicks with Fernleaf will be working on aspects of resiliency for us in the future.
We have, let me jump in real quick. We have Chris Lamka from Tool is joining us.
Oh yeah, thanks. Chris is great, awesome. Yeah, Chris and Ernie are going to be swapping out back and forth as they're available. Now, the thing that is, oh, it looks like Trip just came on. I just added him. Hello, Trip. The thing that is important to us, because none of us are from there, except Ernie actually is from there, and maybe Chris. But the rest of us are from all over the place. And so one of the most important team members for us is all of you. And so this is sometimes when you have a moment of technology not working, you can use other technology to add a picture of all of you who are participating tonight. So this is actually you instead of just the theoretical yous that I had to start with. I apologize for all the strange looks on each of our faces, including mine, as I capture that screenshot. But nonetheless, we count on all of you and all of the other people who are at home tonight that will be watching this in the future to really be our guides, our teammates for, what is important to you. This is your plan at the end of the day, and we are here to help you tell your story, to help uncover the things that need to be uncovered within the data, and from a planning perspective, we're here to help you be able to crystallize and really speak your vision for the future. And so those are some of the things that we really specialize in, and we'll draw some some cool plans and do some things as well as part of that effort. But at the end of the day, really the most important part of this whole process is really what you all bring to the table. So we're so thankful that you're here, and we hope that as we go through this process, through this week of Planapalooza and into the future of the project, that our numbers just grow and grow and grow as this Plan Spartanburg really becomes a movement rather than just a plan. So the good news is that we get the opportunity to work all over the country. As you can see on this map, we really don't have any particular boundaries to where we go and we work. The thing that's great about that is that we are able to see a lot of different things. There's a lot of places that are doing some cool stuff, a lot of places that are doing some dumb stuff. We want to make sure we bring the best ideas to you and make sure we get rid of the ideas that we've seen not work elsewhere. But then most importantly, back to my last point about how important you all are to the team, is that we can't just do what we did in some other place. What we've done over in New Hampshire or Vermont or something is not necessarily going to be what's right for you all, or something in California, or even as we know, just down the road in Greenville, those kind of things. So you're a unique city, and we want to honor that and respect that, and we need you all to help hold us accountable in making sure that we're doing stuff that's relevant to you. Now, this is something that comes up a lot of times because we work in all sorts of communities, and with different demographics, people of different backgrounds, different races and ethnicities, and all sorts of things. It's not uncommon for people to say, this is great and all, and this plan is focused on equity. So what do you know about inequity? You look like a guy from the suburbs, and I think that's a fair question. I think that's fair to ask. That's part of the reason why we have an amazing team. There will be gaps in my knowledge and my experience going through this process. But what I always say to people is, I've never been a woman. I've never been a senior citizen. But in every plan that we work on, I'm asked to help represent them and their views and help bring that to the table, to help them catalyze and articulate and speak what it is that's important to them, even if they don't have the words of a planner. And so that's really important to me and to us. And so I like this image, if you can see on my screen. The woman is a doctor talking to her patient. And while, yes, she's been a woman and she understands that, this is a cardiologist who focuses on the heart. She's never had a heart attack like her patient. And so this doctor is helping the patient without having the experience of it, through her training, through the instruments and the data and the machines, and through other people who have had the same experience as her patient. This is a good one. I love this. This is mission control, NASA. So these are all the engineers, like Mary Jackson, who was NASA's first African-American engineer. You may have seen the movie Hidden Figures that covers her and others' lives. Now, the people here in mission control have never gone to the moon. They've never gone into space. They've never been an astronaut, and they never will. But they are fully responsible for making sure that this person gets to where they need to go and comes back safely. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you all, because I remember the first time I was asked, what do I know about inequity? It really caught me off guard. And over the years, I've had a lot of time to think and reflect on it. So I'm so thankful for the people who've asked me that, that have caused me to need to think through it. So at the end of the day, though, just like with the character and the physical planning side of things in Spartanburg, we count on the community to tell us about that. And when it comes to equity and people's experiences, we're really going to count on you all as well. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that a little bit there before we move on. So what is a comprehensive plan? Sometimes as planners, we take for granted that other people know about planning. You've, for whatever reason, decided to attend tonight, so we're glad that you got the message, but we don't expect that you're an expert, and nor do you ever have to become an expert through this process. Mostly what we're going to do is just really, pick your brain and have you share things with us, but the ultimate goal is to create a comprehensive plan for the future. Now, a comprehensive plan is a long-range policy document. It establishes a vision for the future of the city, and it provides guidance with policies and things for growth and development and conservation in the future. And it has specific action items that are in there to really direct the city towards implementing that vision. And so we're going to come up together with what is this vision, and with common principles and big ideas and things all together, and then make sure that the plan talks about how you can accomplish those goals in the future. Now, your current comprehensive plan is a little bit unique. It's broken up into these different 5 different planning areas, which makes sense because you can start to think about the city, a little bit more of a bite-sized piece. But on the other hand, we really like to think about the whole city together, and especially when you're thinking about things like equity and other things, having a more holistic view really, I think, will help us. But it looks at different development areas and land uses and where you want to go in the future. But it's been a little while since it's been updated, so 2004 is the current comp plan. In that plan, there's some key things that we pulled out here that we thought, since you maybe haven't read the comp plan, wanted to share with you. It talks about that there are few transportation, it has few transportation focused recommendations, so it's not very robust in how it deals with transportation. So the folks at Tool are going to help us with that a lot. There are land use recommendations that address traffic impacts. It talks about encouraging mixed use activity in the downtown, looking at recommending limited activity centers, office districts, and having residential character along some of the corridors to limit potential congestion. There's somebody else here. I'm going to admit them from the waiting room. Industrial uses are encouraged to the south and the west of the airport and near the rail. So we'll look at some of these things and see if that still makes sense. And then looking at greenways and preserved open space and recreation areas. There's a lot more to it than that, but these are some points that we pulled out, and we're going to examine what the old plan says, because lots have changed since 2004. We've had recession, we've had a global pandemic, we've had all sorts of things happen that have changed kind of how people build and use land, and so we want to make sure that it's all up to date with current thinking. So we've done a little bit of homework before we showed up tonight, but we try not to learn too much, because this process, if we know too much when we come to talk to you all, it really starts, kind of have some preconceived ideas about how things should be. And so share with you a few things that we've learned so far. One thing we've learned that we're building on a firm foundation of planning. You guys have done so much work over the years, so many plans and things, and plans that not have just sat on the shelf, but things have been implemented. It's really impressive. You have this amazing racial equity index that was done a couple of years ago. So that's been an invaluable resource for us, looking at that as well. Downtown master plan, it's got a little bit of date on it, age on it now, so that should be updated before too long. But housing market study that's pretty new. So some of these things are really exciting and have been helpful for us. The racial equity index, it has a lot of stuff in there. But you know, some of the things that are really interesting and cool, this is a great graphic here. It says the grocery stores within a half-mile radius. And so you can see, you know, assuming somebody's willing to walk a half a mile, you know, how few places are served by grocery stores that you don't have to necessarily drive a long way to. So that kind of information will become important to us as we go through this. And I think I mentioned it a couple of times more in passing, but I actually meant to talk about it when we were looking at the idea of your plan here, how your plan is set up. And I mentioned that this was sort of unique way to break down a city like this in a comprehensive plan. One of the things that's going to be really unique about this new plan is it is the first ever comprehensive plan that's been written in the country that is focused on equity as its cornerstone, as its foundation. And I think that's really meaningful. It's going to be a model in the country. People are going to look to Spartanburg to see what we did here first. People always look to see what you did first, who did it first. And so it's exciting to me to be a part of this, and I hope it will be exciting and meaningful to all of you as well to be a part of this team. So as I said, as equity is a key component of this, looking at this equity index, you know, we've just been pulling out all these great points and, you know, what the plan does, and looking at, you know, access to the medical center and healthy and affordable food, and you know, looking at, you know, who's riding on transit, and all sorts of things within that plan. Then there's the long range transportation plan from 2016, and it's got a lot of recommendations in there. It looks at, you know, prioritizing separated bike facilities so people will feel more safe riding bikes, and has a bunch of new bike projects and sidewalk projects within it, and different intersection improvements to enhance pedestrian safety, and expanding the bike share stations. You've got man, you got so many different plans. It's hard to go through it all and keep you guys engaged through the night. But I'll try not to read all the bullets. But in the bike and ped master plan, it talks about updating the zoning ordinance and land regulations to incorporate some pedestrian and bike facilities and new developments, so that you know, as you make choices to develop things, you're actually adding to that infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists. And this is where the equity side comes in too, because, you know, we know that not everybody has access to cars. And in some communities, they think about that as, you know, you want to go walk or run or bike and for exercise, and people don't think about it as necessarily a necessary thing for some people to move around the city. And so if you aren't set up to support that type of, you know, pedestrian and cycle travel, then the city becomes inequitable in that way. We have talked with city planning department staff. There's a think tank that is a really great cross-section of ages and races and genders and different backgrounds and different neighborhoods around the city, because we know that you're a very neighborhood-focused city. We've got business owners, community leaders, and organization representatives and volunteers around the city. And the think tank is really a sounding board for us. Like when we have a question, like stuff we'll hear tonight, we'll learn, you know, we'll go, oh, that's a great point. We write it down, and then we think about it later and we go, well, I wonder what they meant by that. And so we kind of go to the think tank and say, you know, as locals, what do you guys make of this? How do we need to understand this idea? And then we've talked to all the city planning commissioners and the city council members as well, and they were great. We do this in every city that we work in, and I don't always say they were great. I just don't say anything because I wouldn't want to say something that's not nice. But I was really excited and encouraged when I talked to all of them, especially when the plan had lofty goals around things like equity. And it takes everybody really being on the same page to make that kind of stuff happen. And so that was wonderful. We had a community kickoff on September the 9th, and we had over 100 participants, which was incredible. I love that. The smaller the little squares are on the screen, the happier I am, because that means the more people came and participated. And you can watch that recording on planspartanburg.com/about. All these sessions are being recorded, and so you can go back and watch any of them that you missed. We've got a website, planspartanburg.com, that I just mentioned. We have almost 200 registered users, but we need more. We need a lot more. And earlier today, and I think we've surpassed this now, we had 999 visits since we launched the website. I think we're over 1,000 now, which is incredible. I love that people are going and looking. And the thing that's great about the website, when you go to it, you'll see that it is it's interactive. It's not just a place where we're putting up information. It's really a place where you give information too. We have tools and exercises and different things. Pretty much everything we're doing in person, you can do online as well. And so that's really helpful to make it something where you want to go back and check on it over and over. It's been great because we can actually check and see who's participating online, and age groups, and their gender, and different race or ethnicity. And so it's great because what we find is, like, if we say, for instance, we've got so many females who are participating, we say, okay, well, why are we not reaching the males? How do we get men to participate? And so it's good for us to see where we're having success in getting the word out, because we can adjust our messaging over time. And also, when I share this with you and you see these images, you can say, okay, well, we need to get the word out to this group or that group. There's not enough people who are participating that are under 18, for instance. And so I think that's going to be important. Looking at it by race, we have nearly twice as many who are white versus black, and then we have a bunch of others that have tiny little slivers here as well. And so finding ways to reach out to everybody is going to be important. But one of the things we have to realize too is, when we look at the actual population of the city and how the different groups are distributed based on who lives there, maybe we look at it and we find, oh, well, this is actually the distribution of men and women that's typical in the city, et cetera. So we have to look at that as well. We've had these on the table sessions that are going, and if you haven't done one yet, please do. It's a really cool and simple process. You basically get with some of your friends or people you work with, either in person if you're able to do that comfortably or safely, or you can do it on the computer, or even on the phone. You can do it on the phone. And essentially, you get this toolkit that you're able to download on the webpage. And you volunteer to host a session. You don't have to know anything about planning. You don't have to, know any of the issues in the city or anything. And you just go through. It's really a self-guided meeting, and you have fun because it's people and you can maybe make a theme around it, or do do it over dinner or whatever. There's all kinds of ways to make it fun. So we had an art contest going. The art contest is we've got, if you've noticed our logo, this is all these handprints. So we want to have as many people's hands and fingerprints on this project as possible. So we took our hand theme, and so people are being asked to draw what the city will look like in the future. Lend us a helping hand. So that deadline's been extended, but kids love this, but grown-ups can do it too. We have the visioning workshop to go. So if somebody misses something, you can go either download this or pick up this at City Hall, the planning department, and participate there. Because what we realized from the very beginning of this, as we were thinking about equity and everything we do, once the pandemic hit, we realized that we couldn't do a bunch of in-person stuff the way we normally do. We said, oh, no problem, we'll go online. This is great. And then we remembered not everybody has access to the internet. And so from the very beginning of this project, we've had to think about how to be equitable and reaching out to people, giving people an opportunity to participate. And so we've created these things that we don't normally do, these paper versions, paper copies that people can get, fill out at home, and then drop off or send in. So some of the feedback we've been getting, though, is kind of neat. From our the visioning workshop, tell us an issue Spartanburg's facing today, lack of quality affordable housing, and what will it take to fix the issue. And so whoever it was, this was their issue, and here's some of their ideas. Here's another one, racial equity related to housing, transportation, jobs, access to amenities and services, et cetera. And then what to do, people need to work together to understand we're all the same yet different. And so really getting that feedback directly is really cool. We asked people to, talk about how do you get around Spartanburg. A lot of people drive, obviously. And is it easy for you to, and why or why not? So some of these things you wouldn't think that it would be, helpful for us, but your little, like what's going on in your life is directly relevant and gives us ideas and inspiration. And it points out to us things we need to start to work to fix and make better, to make everyone's quality of life in Spartanburg better. We had this one that's tell us about equity. Now, what we've learned over the years is that equity is not the same, doesn't mean the same thing to every people in every city. And so really having, defining what is equity in Spartanburg, we wanted to do from the very beginning. And so there's a whole section on the webpage about this. And we want to, understand what is the Spartanburg version of that. And we can only understand that from your feedback. We've heard, looking at sort of grouping some of the things we've heard related to character and authenticity. People have said, we shouldn't continue to sprawl out, sort of suburban sprawl, and people said we need to have infill development. So actually where there is current development building on either vacant land that's in between the buildings, or where a building maybe is run down or has ended its useful life cycle. Looking at people like the small town character. People talked about growth without compromising that character. So how do we grow so we have sort of the economic development side of things, but not mess up what we love about Spartanburg? People have said that Spartanburg is a diamond in the rough, and it's a great location, sort of in between all these great things. But it's small enough so you can get involved and really make an impact in the city. So you kind of got a big city, small town feel going on. People said related to equity that equity is better, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And so I was encouraged to hear that. It's, and that varies from person to person. But I think that it was encouraging that was what I was hearing most often when you ask people about equity. It's sort of their general statement. There is generational poverty, though, that people said it really needs to be worked on, that the downtown should be for everyone. It shouldn't just be for out-of-town guests or people who have a lot of money to spend or things like that. That it's a welcoming community that embraces diversity. People talked about the impacts of COVID-19 being really challenging for the whole city, but especially on lower income families and neighborhoods. We need to be sure to reach all members of the Spartanburg community. And then people said also, don't forget homeless and disabled people as well when we're thinking about equity. It's not just around racial equity. And that is something that I've learned too. We were working in a community not too long ago, and we were talking about equity, and the focus was very much so on race, and it was a woman was sitting in the back, and she said, there's also inequity in income, and she was a white woman, and she said, I'm a single mother, and I have I think she said 4 kids maybe, and I don't qualify just for affordable housing or some of the other programs that the city offers, but I'm struggling nonetheless. And so it was not even just it was like she wanted us to expand our conception of what equity meant. So we didn't only focus on people with extreme needs, but also people who have who are sort of in the middle or at the closer to the middle. We heard in the downtown that the downtown is a food desert right now. You can't go get groceries, healthy, nutritious food nearby in certain areas in the downtown. That it's hard to convince major retailers to come downtown. And that's not just a Spartanburg thing, that's a lot of cities in the country. Talk about needing public bathrooms downtown for visitors and tourists. People said they like to see a vibrant downtown and adjacent neighborhoods, and want an environmentally healthy downtown. Now, the other thing we heard that's not on this list is that people have been really happy with how downtown has been evolving over the years and has much improved. And there's, people can tell that, there's been effort put into it. And so that's good to hear. Obviously, downtowns are hit hard by COVID. So figuring out what is the new, thing to do to help economically. Housing in neighborhoods, we heard there are concerns about gentrification of the neighborhoods near downtown. We've heard that communities need better amenities. We've heard there's a lack of quality, affordable housing. Some people said a tiny house community would be good for those without housing and lower income families. And they said that there's increased homelessness that needs to be addressed. And so finding ways to get people into homes who aren't in homes right now is important. Quality of life and entertainment. We heard that there needs to be a large arts venue, bringing people from all around together. That there's too much emphasis on luxury housing and expensive restaurants. They need to make amenities that are accessible to everybody. And we heard that there's a lot of active community churches, which is great. In business and economy, we heard that there's the potential to really capitalize and build on the adventure sports industry. People talked about concerns with closing businesses in the city. People would like to see the mall revitalized, which is something we hear in nearly every city we work in. The mall's dead or dying. What do we do about that? City needs to support small businesses, we heard, and attract new businesses and keep current businesses open. And then there's limited office space, so low vacancy there. Now that, we need to check and see if we got that comment before or after COVID, because office space is certainly starting to change. And then we heard that the city is friendly to businesses, so that's good to hear. In the education world, we heard people talk about promoting outdoor learning or a forest school, so a forest school in the woods. There's a lower rate of higher education attainment in the city, so compared to the surrounding areas. And then there, as you all know, there's 7 higher education institutions in the city, which is incredible. What an asset, what a resource. So how do we tap into that and make that work even better for the city? Transportation and mobility and parking, we heard that the city needs to make the city more pedestrian and bike friendly. Some people need cars to get around because they can't walk, so we can't exclude them. So that's a great point to remember. Look into making Asheville Highway a complete street, and we'll talk more through this process about what complete streets are, but in a nutshell, it's essentially making a road that has addresses all the different types of transportation, as we said, biking and walking and driving, rather than just focus on it being for cars. And then public transportation system is lacking, we heard, and there need to be better defined bike lanes. All things green. So people have said preserve as much green space as possible, and people have talked about having larger playgrounds, and there's a place called the Gathering Place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Utilities, facilities, and capital investment. People talk about there's a strong collaboration right now between the city and public and private organizations, which is wonderful. That there is good government, and that's great. We don't hear that every place we go. And there is addressing the impacts of new development on public infrastructure is important, so that when you're building stuff, it's not starting to put too much of a burden on your systems. And identifying and prioritizing areas that need investment, and that's certainly an equity concept. So when we're looking at infrastructure, be it street trees, repairing sidewalks, potholes, all of that stuff, making sure that we're looking and those resources are being distributed equitably around the city. So we've been doing not only talking to people, but also starting to look at the facts and figures and some of the data and statistics. Looks like your population, if you don't know, in 2020 is around 38,932. And the city is expected to grow by 4.67% over the next 5 years. So get up to 40,750 by 2025. Is looking at starting to understand how race and ethnicity is distributed in the city. And as we said before, making sure our outreach is, if we have bigger pieces of pie and color on the pie chart, that it actually is reflective of the how the city is distributed with race, not just because certain people aren't getting the message or getting outreach isn't reaching them. And then looking at the population by age, you've got a lot of millennials, so that's good. That means you're attractive to younger people and younger families. A lot of places we work, the city's just getting older and older, and they're having a hard time attracting young people. So that's exciting. Your median household income is lower than the county. And so we need to look at that and understand what's causing that. And then the number of families below the poverty line. This is one of those statistics that you don't want to be higher in, but you guys are. So need to understand kind of what's causing that and if there are things that we can do about it. And this is I probably should have said at the beginning, but as we go through this whole process and work on this plan together, what you'll start to see is that the comprehensive plan can only address certain things. There are certain things that it can't do. Like for instance, I always use the example, I've heard somebody come in and say, my neighbor's dog barks all night long and it drives me crazy. Can we fix that with this comprehensive plan? And I always say, well, no, sorry. But, when people say things like, I don't have any way to get to work, and because I don't have, my car is broken or whatever the case may be, is there something you can do about that? And I said, well, I can't get your car fixed, but we can work on the transportation system to make sure that it's getting you where you need to be when your car is not working. Whenever these things come up, don't be frustrated when we say the comprehensive plan can't deal with it. Oh, another good example I always use is people say, my landlord is the worst, they're letting the building fall to pieces around us. What can we do about it? That needs to be in the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan can't make a landlord take care of their building, but there are ordinances and things that do that. But a comprehensive plan might recommend that you have like a landlord registry or something so that, it's easier to find who owns a building if they're an out of town landlord or something. So looking at housing, we look at the type of housing that you have, and you have primarily single family detached housing. And what we find is one of the number one things we hear in cities when they're talking about housing and equity and those sorts of things is that they have too much of one type of thing, one type of housing. And so we need to look at how to have a broader range of housing types in the city because people don't only want to live in single family detached houses. Now that said, some people do want to live in single family detached houses. Some neighborhoods are built and designed that way. And that's the way that it's intended to be. And the people who live in those are happy for it to be that way. And so really, what I always talk about is with housing, with anything in the comprehensive plan, honestly, we want to make sure that there's something for everyone in the plan, that the plan isn't written for any one perspective, so that your preferences aren't precluding someone else from having their preferences. A lot of cities we work in, people say, oh, we don't want any more multifamily housing. And I always then ask the question, who here has never lived in an apartment in their life? Raise your hand if you've never lived in an apartment. And of course, no one raises their hand. And so it's sometimes people, forget maybe, where they came from, where they've been in their life, different stage in their life, a different time in their life, or they forget that their kid lives in an apartment right now. Their son or daughter might live in an apartment, or their grandkids. And so really thinking about making sure that that we are putting ourselves in other people's shoes, and we'll talk about that more through this process. And then here you can see there's a pretty good split between renters and owner occupied units. So that's kind of interesting. And then most of your houses are built in from 1970 to 1979. The thing that's interesting to me about that is sort of after World War II, sort of the quality of design and the lovability of buildings sort of took a decline. And so you'll notice that people love the way, houses look in historic neighborhoods. Most people do. And they don't necessarily speak with such affection about houses that are not built in those historic styles. And so looking at that will become important as we start to talk about the character for the future. let me go a little bit quicker. I know I'm going slow here, sorry. That's one of the things I found about myself on Zoom is when I'm doing it on Zoom and I can't see all of you when I'm talking, I don't go as quickly because I can't see when you're falling asleep and getting bored with me, so apologies. When we look at how people are moving in and out of the city each day, we see that people who are working in Spartanburg but live outside, you've got 26,000 or so that are coming in from outside of Spartanburg to work. And then you've got people, about 12,000 people who are living in Spartanburg and working outside each day. And then you've got only 3,810 who are living and working in Spartanburg. So when you have traffic issues each morning and each afternoon during your rush hours, it's this number being so low that is part of that problem, having all these people coming in. So if more of these people were living here and working here, or you were having more people, and it doesn't help if you have more people leaving, but nonetheless, these numbers become important to us as we start to see, you know, kind of how people are moving in and out of the city. And then looking at your transportation network, we're going to do that this week. Some of the traffic problems that we hear about can be resolved by looking at more connections and more opportunities to connect. You guys have some ravines and streams and creeks and things that, you know, make it a little bit challenging to connect through as often as you would like to have be able to make you know, traffic flow a bit more smoothly. So that'll be a challenge we'll have to look at. This is an incredibly exciting map for me to see. This is the percentages of households that have vehicles. And so you can start to see that, you know, the percentage of households with 0 vehicles, 0 to 3.3. And so the darker, I think the darker the color, the less access they have to vehicles. And so as we're talking about equity, this becomes really important to see. If you have fewer people who have cars in this area, you need to make sure your transportation is superb in this area. And in areas that people are having plenty of cars, it's not quite as important, but maybe if you want to encourage them to not drive so much, it's also important to get your transportation there as well. We'll be looking at your sidewalks and trails where you have those connections. You know, it's great, but you start to see there's, you know, lots and lots of blue in and around the core of the city. And then as you go out to the edge, you have lots and lots less. And so how do we, you know, make smart decisions about improving the pedestrian, you know, walkable network in the city? And then this one, I've mentioned transit several times now. So we're looking at transit. And you've got 8 routes right now. You've got weekday service from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We were working somewhere a few months ago and they said, it's great. We're so thankful for our transit system. But if they stayed open till 6:15, then I could actually get home from work and not have to have somebody give me a ride. Or, you know, it's a little like one of those little stories where somebody shared with us this little piece of information that we didn't know. And it turns out that they worked at Walmart or something. They're like the largest employer in the city, and it would impact, you know, hundreds of people if they were made a small change in the service. So those are the kinds of moments and insights that we're looking for you to share your stories with us and the struggles that you have and the hopes and dreams and aspirations as well. So as I mentioned, the comprehensive plan is looking towards the future of the city. We look backwards at the past to learn, and we look at today to see kind of how you're doing, what you're doing, but it's so much is about the future. And we know that preferences are changing in the country. There has, for the longest time, been a preference for sort of a suburban lifestyle, suburban neighborhoods, single family detached houses, you know, all in the same size lots and, you know, cul-de-sacs here and there. And that was kind of the super popular thing for a long time. Now you're starting to see real estate ads that look like this: live life to the max. And it's, you know, seems urban and fun and exciting and, you know, all of that. And there's no cul-de-sacs to be seen. You also see the work preferences changing, and not just preferences anymore. This is a slide we used to use about people who were just telecommuting because they wanted to. And you always say that, you know, this guy is sitting here on his porch running his multi-billion-dollar business, eating potato chips and drinking wine with his dogs, running his business on his laptop, and that was his choice. And nowadays, this is like, oh, COVID. Okay, yeah, this guy's at home because his business is closed. And so not only preferences have changed, but necessities have changed as well. But this is what we saw. Obviously now these people would all be scooted further apart from each other and probably be wearing masks. But how people work in, you know, open spaces and collaboratively rather than just being in an office or a cubicle was a, you know, quite important thing. People have changing preferences in housing and, you know, not having to have a giant house. And you see, you know, tiny houses and micro apartments and people living above garages and, you know, people wanting more sort of urban loft living and more sort of downtown resurgence. These things are all kind of new. So much so that this is a real estate company called the Cool Space Locator. And so it's all about finding cool spaces for people who want to have something out of the norm. So some things to think about this week that we want you to, you know, marinate on and bring back thoughts and ideas to us. Community character. What is the character of Spartanburg that people love, that they want to protect and to enhance? We need to make sure this is one of the main things that helps make sure we write the Spartanburg plan. So that's a good one. Equity, as I said, what does equity mean to you? So what are some examples of inequity in Spartanburg? How can we ensure that every element of the plan considers and promotes equity? And then what actions are needed to make the city more equitable? Here's that page from the website I mentioned. So click on there and share more ideas. Neighborhoods, what role does each neighborhood play? You're a city of well-defined neighborhoods, which is great. A lot of cities aren't like that. Partly it has to do with some of those features that I mentioned, some of the drainage and you know, hydrology and the topography. What are the elements of the neighborhoods that need to be protected? Where do you want to see new development occur? You know, we work in some communities where they say, you know, we have this single family house in the cul-de-sac and all that, but you know, we've been talking to our neighbors and we sure wish we had a neighborhood store. Like we could just walk to the store or walk to, you know, get some coffee in the coffee shop. And right now our zoning doesn't allow that to happen in our single family neighborhood. Other places we work, they say, whatever you do, don't let a coffee shop come into our single family neighborhood. We don't want that. And so, you know, it becomes sort of a neighborhood discussion rather than having somebody tell you what needs to happen in your neighborhood or where development should occur. And that comes back to the question earlier too about gentrification. When the neighborhoods are so strong like this, you know, new development can have an impact for the good, but it can also create an imbalance and really throw a neighborhood, you know, into a process of change. Not that change is bad, and you know, all these neighborhoods have changed. You know, your downtown, your historic downtown core used to be, you know, small little single buildings, you know, detached from one another. And over the years they add to them and they grow and things change. And, you know, I think, you know, we so often are products of our time. We think about what we know of the city and how it is today. And we forget that things change because most people don't like change, especially these days, because a lot of times when you get new development, it's not always as great as what was there before. So we want to think about that, and then not only where it should occur, but what type of new development should occur. You know, if we're trying to solve housing needs, you know, what type of housing should go into development? If we're trying to, you know, find what is the future of office in Spartanburg, what does that need to look like, and where does it need to go? Some of those things become important. We're looking at, you know, living in Spartanburg. Who's moving here? What are they looking for in terms of housing, jobs, quality of life? Who's leaving? And what's causing them to leave? You know, are they leaving just because it's, you know, they moved there for a certain reason, a certain phase or stage of their life? Or are they moving because they feel like that it's not the Spartanburg that they originally came to and then fell in love with? What are the factors that contribute to equity and quality of life and enjoyment living in Spartanburg? And do you see yourself living in Spartanburg forever? If so, why or why not? And what could change that might influence your decision if you're going to stay or not? Look at the future of retail. You know, here's the mall we talked about. You know, is that going to be like this forever? Probably not, unless it's really unique in the country. And so how do we maximize that big land asset you have there in the city? And then, you know, looking at that suburban development pattern, not just for houses, as I showed a minute ago, but for commercial. And you have, you know, strip malls and all of these things that are, very, very wasteful in the way that they lay out land. They have these giant areas of parking, and the parking's right out in front, and it doesn't really, feature that. If you said, well, what's the character of Spartanburg that people love, they probably aren't going to show me a picture like this in Spartanburg. Now, you may love, shopping here, or eating there, or getting your phone fixed there, or whatever the case may be. And so these conveniences and the use that's in there is important, but the way that it's designed and laid out is typically not something that people love. What is a college town? You guys have all of these colleges and universities here. Are you a college town? Do you get full credit for that? Do you want to be a college town? Do you, what does that look like, and how can you either enhance that to make it even more of an asset to the city, or how do you, control that? Because we've worked in plenty of cities where, college, they have some giant college and they keep gobbling up new land in the neighborhoods to grow and grow and grow, and it starts to impact the feeling of neighborliness. Looking at the city as an employment center, we've talked about, jobs being so important. And obviously when it comes to equity, the more jobs we have, the better off people are going to be financially. And certainly these days with COVID and all the shutdowns and stuff, trying to figure out ways to set ourselves apart. And you guys have done some great things, getting some of this manufacturing stuff going is quite a feather in your cap. Getting around, how do you move around the city? Are there other ways that you wish you could get around? Could the transportation connections be improved? And how can the city become more equitable when it comes to transportation? Looking at how the city's designed, some principles of design that we use, and as we'll be drawing plans and things this week to show you ideas, we'll be looking at, we've been hearing about having a more walkable city. So we know that the average American's willing to walk about 5 minutes or a quarter of a mile before they get in the car, if they have a car. And if there's transit, they'll walk about 10 minutes. And so thinking about everything being designed in that increment, from groceries to playgrounds to parks, having it be more compact. So if you don't have much land left, you've kind of built out a lot. And so if we want to preserve some scenic areas, rural areas, if you've got any left, and being a little bit more compact in how we're developing in the future, having mixed uses so that we have our daily needs being met within walking distance, some light retail, maybe a corner store, as I mentioned, some office, rather than having things be so single use, buildings only being able to do one thing in a certain district. And then diverse, having a mix of housing types so that there's a diversity of incomes and ages, and types of people, races, and everything, all things in between. I mentioned that the character, what we call the essence of Spartanburg, and this is the crucial thing moving forward. So think about that as well. So I'm going to finally stop talking now and let Becky, you're going to jump in here, Becky?
Sure.
Great.
Would you like to give me control of?
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll click through.
There we go. Awesome.
So Planapalooza is going to be a series of online presentations. There's this one, an interactive mapping exercise that we're going to do after this, and that is also going to be available on the website throughout the event. We're going to have some topical focus meetings tomorrow and Saturday. We'll show you the schedule for that. You can also find it online. There's also going to be web discussions after each of our focus meetings tomorrow and the day after. We will post some follow-up questions. So we'll kind of give a summary of what was discussed during that meeting and then post some follow-up questions if people think of other things that they want to talk about after that or additional ideas they want to contribute. We'll have a show and tell with the consulting team on Sunday at 5 p.m. And basically what we'll do at that point, because we're all over the place, is we will take turns showing you what we're working on, telling you about some of the issues that we're trying to figure out and where we're headed. And then we'll have a live Q&A as part of this presentation and the work in progress presentation that we will do on Wednesday evening. So this says October 22nd to 26th, but we actually are also doing an event on the 28th. That will be our work in progress presentation. So there we go. All of the meetings are open to the public. It's very important that everyone understand as well that you do not have to have any sort of specialized experience or planning experience to attend these meetings. They're all completely open. We would love for people to attend all of them. Tomorrow, we're going to have a meeting related to transportation at 10 a.m. called Moving Around Spartanburg. At 11:30, we'll do economy and business development. 2 o'clock, we'll discuss conservation, growth, and development, and that meeting will also touch on infrastructure and service needs as the city grows. 3:30, we'll talk about all things green. So that's parks, recreation, natural resources, environment, sustainability, anything related to greenness in Spartanburg. On Saturday at 10 a.m., we're going to talk about living in Spartanburg. So that'll be a conversation about housing and neighborhoods. And at 2 p.m., we'll talk about what makes Spartanburg. So things like arts, culture, history, and heritage. Throughout the event, there are going to be walk-in hours at CC Woodson. There is city staff available there to talk with you and walk you through some of these exercises. You can stop in anytime to talk to them, or anytime that's listed here. Those hours are also on the schedule and on the website. We'll also have a virtual open studio on Zoom, and the way that that works is you can log into that Zoom meeting at any time that's listed here and talk to a member of the team. So we'll have a host member that will greet you, and then if there's something specific that you want to talk about, they'll help get you connected with the person who knows about that. So feel free to drop into those. Know that during the focus meetings, a lot of our team members will be attending those meetings, so they may not be available, but there will be a host available to listen to your ideas and take some notes and can show you the mapping exercise and some other things. Like I said, we'll have a live show and tell on Zoom at 5 p.m. on Sunday, and then our work in progress presentation will be Wednesday at 6 p.m. So there's a bit of a delay when I try to advance the slide, so. There we go. So this is our timeline. We've come to kind of the end of our kickoff and data gathering process. We're now at the point where we have a lot of the data and it's time to start turning it into recommendations. So the reason that we do this Planapalooza event is in order to bring together all of our consultants and sub-consultants along with city staff and the community so that we can all really work closely together to try to come up with solutions to problems and recommendations that are going to be in the plan. After Planapalooza, we'll work on refining the data. We usually find that we walk out of Planapalooza with as many questions as we have answers. So we'll dig in a little bit deeper. We'll start looking at case studies. We'll start looking at our own experience, places that we've worked for things that may also work in Spartanburg. And we'll begin drafting the plan, and we'll be working on that through the fall. We'll have a client draft plan towards the end of the year. And end of the year, beginning of next year, and that'll be reviewed by city staff. We'll make some modifications to it per their comments, and then it'll be released as a public draft, and that'll be sometime in the spring. Hopefully by then we'll be able to actually come and interact with you all in person, but if not, we will do another similar event like this. And then once we present the public plan, there will be a public draft review period. It's typically 30 days that the public will be able to take a look at the plan, learn more about it, and provide their comments. And then we'll work with those comments to prepare a final draft that will go to City Council and Planning Commission for their approval. Okay. So again, the best place to find information is at planspartanburg.com. There's all kinds of information on there. There's a separate Planapalooza page that will be updated throughout the event, so make sure to get connected there. There are also tools like the On the Table and the Visioning Workshop that Brian talked about. If you haven't participated in those events yet, we encourage you to do that. Taking a minute. Brian, you may have to do it for me.
Yeah, I got you.
Thanks. All right. So like I said, this is the visioning packet that you can download on the website, but there are also online tools that duplicate these exercises that you can use. Go ahead. And again, please spread the word. Please tell folks that this is going on. If you've got friends, family members, colleagues, neighbors, everyone should be involved in this plan. This is your chance These sorts of opportunities only come up about every 10 years when the city updates their plan. So now is your opportunity to get involved. Think about where you're going to be 10 years from now. And I think you want to have a say in the direction that Spartanburg is going. All right.
All right.
Now we've got a, let's see. I'm going to change the setting. I need to not be controlling your screen, Brian.
Okay.
In order for me to allow people to unmute themselves.
Let me take control back.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, folks, you should be able to unmute yourself now. If you don't know how to do that, let's see. I'm not seeing the screen right now.
You're trying to unmute the participants?
No, well, I'm allowing them to unmute themselves. So if anybody wants to give it a shot, if anybody has a question or just wants to test it and let us know that you can unmute yourselves, that'd be great.
We can unmute ourselves.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we want to take, before we start the exercise, we want to just, I always like to pause here. And by the way, I'm so sorry I talked for so long. I just looked at the clock. I'm mortified, but I appreciate all of you who stayed on here. We just want to open it up to let you all, give us any feedback or any thoughts, questions that you've got, any ideas so far, and then we'll jump into the exercise and circle back around.
I'm getting a message that there are some folks that can't unmute. So I'm going to send everyone and ask to unmute. If you would like to, you can go ahead and do it. If you do not want to, that is okay. We do have a question in the chat. It looks like Ingrid asked, has inequitable access to veterinary care been addressed? Where would we comment on that on the website? That's a great question. I don't know that I have heard that one in the past. And that sounds like something that would be under like the big ideas on the website. In the visioning workshop section, there's an exercise called Big Ideas. So that would be a great place to put it. All right, I just saw the message from someone who was unmuting. And by putting the comment in there now and us taking a note on it and having this recording, we've got it noted that that's something that you are concerned about. All right. Anyone else? Feel free to just shoot me a message if you're not able to unmute yourself, and I'll let you.
You folks are easy. You just don't have any questions. Y'all just want to jump right into the exercise, huh? Let's do it.
Oh, here we've got a good question in the chat. What does mixed use activity space mean when talking about downtown? Brian, I'll let you take that one while I troubleshoot. Yeah, so
typically, when you think about downtown, the whole of downtown is mixed use. The idea being that you're doing multiple things on a piece of property, either in a lot of cases you have businesses on the ground floor and offices or residences above. It's kind of the way that we talk about mixed use. Some people use the term mixed use to mean like side by side. So for instance, they may say that suburban shopping strip center I showed you was mixed use because there's a Verizon and a Five Guys and these different kinds of uses within that. That's not what we mean typically. And so an activity center is, having a mixed use activity center is typically the idea of focusing some mixed use in certain areas, like you would in a downtown, or sometimes you even see like a smaller scale version in a neighborhood, like a neighborhood mixed use activity center. And that's more, sort of smaller scale buildings, more convenience, kind of retail, those sorts of things. Hopefully that answers the question.
where are these streams going to be uploaded later? We are going to have them, they get uploaded to YouTube and then they will be linked on the project website. And then it says, are there any opportunities for people who are hearing impaired or don't speak English to find this information, captioning, and transcripts? I don't know that for sure, but we will figure it out.
I have a question, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Absolutely.
Sure. So I realize, of course, this is a City of Spartanburg planning session, but when it comes to land development, I think about how much this dovetails and is impacted by the county's land use sort of thoughts, if there are any. And I'm just curious to know if there's been any efforts to involve county planning people or connect with them in any sort of a way, especially given South Carolina's annexation laws and how sort of tight the city boundaries are compared to the overall metropolitan area.
Yes, so the county has a its own comprehensive plan that's I think hot off the press, right? It's kind of new. And so, you know, obviously referencing that, and then also interfacing directly with, you know, different people from regional agencies and things as well, because what we see so often is back to my discussions about traffic earlier. So many times people are complaining about traffic, and half the traffic they're complaining about isn't even from their city. It's people coming through their city, not even those who are coming from elsewhere to work there. They're literally driving through. And so that's obviously a regional consideration. And, you know, we see some places that are embracing a lot of like sort of best practices and planning and smart strategies for, you know, limiting traffic in their own city. And then you have the next door neighbor city or the county or whomever that is fully embracing kind of the worst practices. And so you're like always kind of working against each other. But I think, you know, based on everything that I've seen with, you know, planning staff and, you know, city management and all of that, it's, you know, I can't help but imagine they have incredible relationships with everybody all around. So if Martin or anybody wants to weigh in on some of those relationships and how you guys work together.
So yes, I can let you know that before we started the planning process, we had a conversation with county leadership about their performance zoning process surrounding the city. And so we'll probably continue to have those kinds of conversations to learn more about their zoning process and how that affects the city surrounding city developments. But we do want to work with the county, and we're working with them on some transportation issues. We're also taking a look at our sewer and water issues, especially adjacent to city properties. So city areas. So we do have a good relationship with Spartanburg County.
And one of the things that, you know, we have these technical meetings that are starting tomorrow, and you know, they're invited to those as well, and hopefully they'll be able to participate because we'll talk about things like transportation and infrastructure and other things where we want to, you know, maybe even ask them specific questions about, you know, what their, you know, ideas are and things that they're, you know, imagining or hoping would happen in the city, but also so they hear where the city wants to go, you know, so that they really can start to understand and get into that. Hey, you're here to help us plan your future for your city. Awesome. It's almost bedtime. We love when kids come and get involved, because really that's the thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of this. You know, so much of this stuff takes, you know, it's long range. It takes a long time to make it happen. And so some of the things that we come up with in 2020 will be things that will not be here until the kids are grown-ups and running the show. But for those of you who aren't children anymore and who are wondering, you know, how long you've got in the city left, we also want to make sure we have some things that are short-term that you'll get to enjoy the benefits of. And so think about what your grandkids would like or what your kids would like if you're here to, you know, represent them as well, put yourself in their shoes. So.
We've got one more question in the chat, and then I want to move to our mapping workshop so that we have time to do that. It was, is changing the boundaries of the city under consideration or possible?
I don't know. Should we? Where do we want? Do we need bigger city or smaller city? Yeah. So it sounds like I just heard Brad mention some annexation stuff being kind of tight boundaries. So you know, we'll look into that if that's something that people, you know, because we're working in one community and they were actually wanting to essentially annex the whole next city, like merge the cities. And so then the battle became, well, what are we going to call it? You know, who gets first billing in the name? And so yeah, we want to learn more about that and why you asked that question. So let's you know, share with us as we go through this process.
Before we go into the mapping process, I'm sorry I joined late. I got here as quickly as I could. Is there a place where we could, I have a concern about the homeless in Spartanburg, in the city of Spartanburg. And I have a suggestion, and rather than take up time here, is there someone I can send this to?
Yep, you can email things directly to Plan Spartanburg at,
Plan Spartanburg.
yep, at City of Spartanburg. Hang on, I'm blanking on the end. Are you guys a .org?
Yes, .org.
Yes. Plan Spartanburg at cityofspartanburg.org.
Okay. I just thought when I saw this information the other day, I didn't know how this was going to go tonight, but I did want to find out while you're in this planning phase. I wanted to make a suggestion and voice a concern. And that's it.
Yep. You can also go to the visioning workshop section of the website, and there are some tools there, some exercises down at the bottom. One of them is called Big Ideas. And that's a good place to just kind of put general thoughts and comments. You can add those there as well.
And that's on the website?
Yep.
What's the website?
I just added the link in the chat for everyone to the website for the visioning workshop page, and then also the email address for anybody who wants either of those.
And it popped up, but it went away. How can I get it back? I'm technologically challenged.
Go down to the bottom and click on chat. It should open up a window that has all of the chats in it.
Okay.
There's a meeting coming up on Saturday at 10 a.m., Becky, Living in Spartanburg. So we'll talk about housing and homelessness, as I'm sure will be part of that discussion. So if you have time at 10 a.m. to jump on that, that'll be awesome.
10 a.m. Saturday.
Yeah.
Yep.
And where is, in here or?
On Zoom, yes. Yep. The links to all of the meetings and the schedule, Jessica is probably already typing it in, but it's on the Planapalooza site on the website. There it is, planspartanburg.com/Planapalooza.
And then any meeting you want to register to attend, you just click on the register for button, and you go in and you get registered and you'll get the link.
Yep. Works the same as this one.
Okay.
Yep. And then folks can also go to CC Woodson for any of those meetings. If you didn't want to do the Zoom, you can also go in person, and city staff members will be there.
And rather than write all that down, I just took a picture with my camera.
Perfect.
Oh, you're not technologically challenged. That is high tech right there.
Well, talk to my sons. They think I am. I reminded them that I taught them how to use the bathroom and eat with a spoon, you know, but.
There you go. Don't take that. Anyway. That's awesome. All right, Becky, you want to give us the lay of the land for the exercise?
Yes. All right. You have to advance for me. All right. So we're going to do a hands-on workshop. If we had a large group, we would break into breakout rooms, but we're going to keep everybody together. We've got a pretty manageable size group, so we're going to keep us all in the same Zoom room. We're going to walk through the exercise together tonight and let people contribute their ideas, and we will go ahead and add them to the map. But I'm going to show you how to do it yourself because I'm sure you're going to think of things while we're talking about this. I'm sure we're not going to be able to add everyone's marks to the map. So we want everybody here to go visit the website after this meeting and go add your own as well. But stay here because we want to be part of this conversation. So you go to the, oh, hang on, I went too fast. Go to the Planapalooza section of the website that Jessica linked. Scroll down to the bottom. Down at the bottom, there's a tab that says map, and you'll see mapping workshop. So you'll go ahead and click on that. And that's going to take you to this map of Spartanburg. It's going to open up. You're going to see the city boundary right there. Over on the left, it's going to give you some instructions. And what it's saying is you're going to add markers to the map to tell us what you love about Spartanburg and what opportunities you think there are for improvement. So we've got 4 different kinds of markers. There's green for places you love, blue for places of opportunity, red for places that need improvement, and yellow for something we should see. And by we, I mean the team. I mean staff and the team who are helping to write the plan. And then we want you to place those markers and tell us why you place the markers. It's actually required to add a comment. So you can't just add a marker. You need to explain to us why you added it. Go ahead, Brian. So the way that you add a pin to the map is to go over to that plus sign over on the left, add a pin, click that, and then that's going to bring up the menu of the 4 different kinds of pins, and you'll just take one of those and drag it over. And I'm going to show you how to do all this live in just a minute. I just want to walk you through this, and so we'll have the recording of how this all works. So then you add your marker onto the map. You can zoom in and out just like you do in Google. You can actually search too. I'll show you a search bar up on top, so you can actually look for an address if you're trying to get to a location in the city quickly. And you can add your comment, and then if you have any big ideas for the plan, you can also add them there. Go ahead. When we talk about big ideas, I know we've said that times now. When we're thinking about a comprehensive plan, we typically try to organize it into a series of big ideas. So we'll think about something that has some sort of broad-ranging goal and broad-ranging effect in the city, and then we'll develop recommendations and strategies under that big idea to help bring that to fruition. So when we're talking about big ideas, it doesn't have to be something big. You can add any sort of idea. So there's an example of typing in a comment. Green District has a lot of potential. And then you can also add images here. So if you've got a photo of something, if you actually want to go out and show us an intersection or a building or something in the city, you can take a photo or find a photo online, and you can actually upload it here so we can see it. Go ahead. So here you would just upload it from your computer. Save it there. And then you would have a picture attached to your pin. So if you're doing this on the phone, I don't know if anybody here is joined on their phone, you can also do it there as well. It's pretty much just as easy. Go to the Planapalooza section, scroll all the way down to the mapping workshop. You'll click on the Go to Map link down at the bottom. And then you'll have those 4 different options. Same thing. You'll press the plus to add a marker down at the bottom. And then instead of dragging and dropping the marker, what you actually do is zoom in and out until the marker stays in the center of your screen, and you'll move the map around underneath it until it's right in the right spot. And then you can add a comment. Again, you can either take a photo if you are out in the city and see something and want to upload it to this map right away so that we see it. You can take a photo live while you're doing this as well. So it doesn't have to be something that's already stored on your computer or camera. If you're doing it on your phone, you can take the photo. Okay. So now we're going to get into the actual workshop. So Brian, I'm going to take over screen sharing from you. Can everyone see my screen now? Yep. Okay. So this is the main page when you go to planspartanburg.com. You can either scroll down to Planapalooza right here and participate now, or you can click on Planapalooza up here at the top. Do that. And then for anyone who hasn't been here yet, this is the full schedule of all the meetings that are happening with links to register for those meetings. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see this mapping workshop. And there's, in addition to the markers, we've also got a couple of kind of discussion prompts. So before you go in to look at the map, take a look at some of these questions, because it'll help you sort of think of the things that you want to mark on the map, like places that would be appropriate for infill or redevelopment, places that should be protected from development, great streets for walking or biking, streets that maybe aren't so good for walking or biking. And I've noted with these questions what the appropriate marker colors would be. It's not a perfect science. You don't have to pick exactly the right one. If you think it's kind of something that needs improvement and kind of something that's an opportunity, just pick one, blue or red. There isn't really a wrong answer. So I'm going to click Go to Map. Going to bring the map right up, and you'll see right away that there's already some markers on that. So I don't know if this is people who have already jumped on this since I've been talking about it. We did this map exercise in another community about a month ago, and it was really fun to see things popping up live as we were doing it. Natalia is smiling, so I think that it may be her that's adding things. So I'll walk you through how it works. And now is where I want you all to contribute. I'm not the one that's going to actually write these things and decide what's going to get marked on the map. I want you all to tell me what to mark on the map. So the first thing is a place that you love. So somebody tell me a place that you love.
You're going to put the dot and type it in. So
Yeah.
you're technically going to write it the right way they say, right?
Yeah, I'm going to do it for you because I want to show everyone how it works, but I need a suggestion from someone.
The courtyard, I don't know what it's called. It's not really a courtyard. In between the parking garage and the East St. John building, with the one with the big water sphere.
Ooh, somebody's going to help me navigate to it. So I'm going to show you this over here. You can actually search by address, or I can search by, I think, a place, like the name.
Well, Subway, it would be almost directly across the street from Subway on Magnolia Street.
Subway on Magnolia Street.
Bam.
Here we go. So I'm not actually going to place my pin there, but that's showing me where it is.
But to the right of that blue dot is that really nice area. You can see the brick pavers.
Sorry, y'all. I should have pointed out that you do have to be a registered user of the website in order to do this, and I was not logged in, so that's what you just missed, was me logging in. So I'm going back. It was over here, right?
I'm looking. Let me see. That's Spring Street. I'm looking for Magnolia. Well,
Back over and find
there's
it.
Subway. Kind of upper left.
There we go.
There we go. That little, to the right of the blue dot, you see the little, looks like little squares
Yeah.
and bricks. There you go. That's a beautiful unused space in Spartanburg. And it has a big silver sphere with water that pours down over the sphere. And it's just a really sweet, quiet place of solitude. And there are plenty of tables and benches, and you can eat your lunch there. And it's under, I think it belongs to the building above the little green dot, the J.M. Smith building.
Okay.
But it's in between that parking garage and the J.M. Smith building, and it is a beautiful place to just sit and have lunch or meet friends.
Very good. All right, so I'm going to hit submit. So now my pin is there. Who else has one? A place that you love.
You have to remember, we're all from out of town. So if you guys don't tell us stuff, we're just going to make it up as we go. And this is not going to be reflective of what you guys want. So we're counting on you.
And I know that we just told you that we want you to go do this yourself as well, but it'll help us show everyone how to do it if you give us some examples.
Okay, how about the Mary Black Rail Trail?
All right.
So
Give
it
me
runs along kind of Pine Street. I can see it, you know, when I'm on the map, but now I gotta try to tell you where to go.
Yep.
Can you just type it in there, Becky?
I don't know if rail trail
Is that
Yeah,
the
rail trail.
intersection of Union and
near
Kennedy?
rail trail dog park, flatbread, bike shop. Nope, those are Massachusetts. So we're gonna
Oh
assume
no.
somewhere near the dog park.
It's hard for
it
me to see
runs
where.
all along Union Street.
Yeah.
So yeah, where you have your cursor, it goes all the way from Ingalls.
So it's kind of like white dots when I look at it on the map.
Yep, I can see it there.
Anywhere along there.
All right, so it's a place that you love. How come?
Oh, it's nice. You know, it's outdoors and it's got a lot of activities. You can get out and get your exercise.
Okay. I'm gonna submit it. All right, what about a place where there's some opportunities, maybe to do something different?
I have one if you'll let city staff comment.
Of
I
course.
cannot comment though. Okay, so there's if you find Brawley Street and Wofford at where they kind of meet at 29 on the map, there's like a large vacant area that's kind of to the left of the Spartanburg Detention Annex. That's pretty much a giant vacant parcel in downtown.
Am I
Where are you? You're gonna want to go south a bit. Drag your cursor, I guess, down or to the left. To the left. There you go. There it is.
Here?
So there's some topography and there's a railroad there, but it's quite a large piece of property that's just, you know, waiting for something in downtown.
Okay. Great. Anyone else? What about an opportunity?
I have an opportunity.
Okay.
I believe the address would probably be 115 or 110 Main Street, East Main Street. There's it's in between Lime Leaf and some of the old buildings. When you walk past it on the street, it looks like there's a building there, but it's just this large open area. Oh, it should be downtown.
Yep.
I live downtown, and we've just mentioned like just it's a large space, and it looks like just weeds and trees are kind of growing up in it. And we don't know who owns it, but it'd be a cool either dog park or green space or something, not an empty lot.
Am I close to where it is? Can you see it?
No, go back more towards downtown. All right, you're getting close. All right, go over like 2 blocks with your mouse. Almost there. Yep. And zoom in.
Right here?
Yeah.
That's the freight yard. If like 2 buildings to the left, and then there's this skinny, open space in there.
All right. So infill opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What about places that need improvement? Everything's perfect? Why are we here?
I mean, I'll keep talking if nobody wants to say anything.
Go
You
for
have
it.
one more chance before I speak.
Go for it. But I just want to remind everyone that this is your opportunity. You've got a dozen city staff members and consultants here just to listen to you. So Please share.
And this one's particularly interesting because it's like, what don't you like? That's what this translates to me.
Well, I was busy pinning stuff, so
Miss Wilma, tell us.
my area opportunity would be that block on West Main Street, right in between event rental, in front of event rentals.
Oh yeah.
Out that little warehouse area, it could be so much more.
I was going to say that. I was thinking of
Inviting.
just that area. Yeah.
That area right in there.
Am I close? Right here? Warehouse?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just before you turn off to St. John right there. That's where I was going to place my
Yep.
improvement pin.
So redevelopment opportunity?
Yes.
There are a lot of homeless people that stay behind that warehouse.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So that's actually a good one. We don't have a something we should see yet. So that when I say see, I mean be aware of as well. So that may be something good to do. Say.
If we have a general like issue that doesn't pertain to a particular place, but just something we see throughout, is there a place to put a pin for, or you just kind of put it on the street?
I'm sorry, say that again, the beginning part.
Like if there's I think we're on the, something we see should be changed or improved on.
Yep.
If there's just like an issue that we've noticed in downtown per se, and there's not like an explicit area, is that like, is there a general catch-all area to put a pin for it at?
I would maybe just put it in downtown and note that it's not location specific. Just put your comment and then say not location specific. I'm going to make a note of that too, and I'm going to add that to the instructions.
What is it? I want to know what it is.
The general one?
Yes.
So I live in the center of downtown, and at like 2 a.m. in the morning, we hear cars racing through like NASCAR every night.
Sounds like where I live.
And so you want to get some like bleachers and stadium seats or what?
or concessions or something.
Gotcha. Yeah, Becky is all about empowering people to go on the web page. I'm like, I got you here right now. I want to know.
Well, one other thing that we should say that we didn't really mention is that as part of this process, we're not just writing a plan, we're actually doing some plans. Brian, do you want to talk about that a little?
Yes.
We're looking to identify locations to do some planning.
Exactly. So can you hear me okay? I just had something weird with my speaker. Okay. So one of the things that we'll be doing, and not just, talking about how to make transportation improvements or, help the economy grow, or how to, combat homelessness or whatever the bigger sort of large scale topics and issues. Like we're looking also to specifically create some plans that will illustrate these ideas. So if somebody says, we need to have new development that does the following things, and maybe it goes back to that list I was saying, walkable, mixed use, compact, whatever. And so how do we, what does that look like? What does that mean to, because most people who don't think about planning all the time have no idea how that would translate itself to on the ground in Spartanburg. And so we'll actually, take a piece of property that we don't have any control over, the city doesn't control, it's just like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Just like you've done in your downtown plan and areas where you want to sort of have people focus investment and development. And we'll pick a site and we'll draw a theoretical plan that shows, kind of how new development might accomplish the goals, the bigger picture goals in the city. And so we need you guys to help direct us to those locations as well. So if you're going to see development, where would that development be, and what kind? Some of those questions we were going over earlier. Let's answer them now while we've got you on the Zoom.
Well, my biggest concern is that the City of Spartanburg is really concerned about how the homeless look in our downtown area. And one of the things that the homeless have to do is carry all their worldly belongings with them everywhere they go. And what I wanted to propose, and there's several areas that I've actually had in mind that I wanted to bring up later and not take up your time here, but I wish we could set up lockers or some kind of, you know, a little bigger than a gym locker, traditional gym locker, so that the homeless, I mean, they're burdened with a lot of heavy things. And if they had a locker and a lock, they could, you know, it would improve the looks of downtown that they're not carrying, the homeless won't be so obvious. They won't be carrying their things. And they can keep their things in a locker and, you know, spread out through, not have all of them in one place, but, you know, maybe spread out through the city, and the homeless can apply for a locker and keep their sleeping bags and pillows and clothes and toiletries and all the things that they're burdened with carrying around in a locker. And I was thinking about near all the parking garages, because that's where a lot of them stay and hang out. And also maybe the bus station, a lot of them hang out there. They have to stay on the move, and when they're on the move carrying all their worldly belongings, you know, the city's concerned at how it looks, but we could actually help the homeless and help improve the looks of the city, of the downtown, by providing lockers for them.
You're getting lots of people on the chat saying they like that idea. The other thing too is to build on that, is to really say, you know, one way to make sure that people don't have to carry all of their stuff around with them all the time is to really find a way to solve the homelessness, you know, to get people into housing, and find ways to accomplish that. So I'm looking forward this week to talking with people who are, you know, work for the advocacy groups or nonprofits that address homelessness, because we've been working on another project where homelessness is a big issue, and so I've been doing lots and lots of research about best practices around the country, and when it comes to equity, you know, it applies to everybody, and so, you know, hopefully we'll be able to set some new you know, precedents for people around the country to look at and see how Spartanburg did it right.
Well, and then there's you know, showers, but that's a step even further, but showers for the homeless so that they can take care of their, you know, personal needs. But I actually know a very dear homeless man whose story's tragic, and most of them are, but he's not a drug addict. He doesn't panhandle. Everybody downtown loves him, and he lived with his mother, and she went to had to go to the hospital, and when she got out, they put her in an assisted living, and he couldn't live there with her, and so now he is homeless. And you know, he's the exception to every rule. He's not your typical nuisance homeless person. He just is quietly living in the streets without bothering a soul. But he has health issues, and he carries all of his worldly belongings with him, and he's really burdened by it. And you know, we do need to do something for our homeless, because I think a lot of people don't come downtown because of the homeless, and those that do come downtown are often complaining to the city about the homeless. And so if we actually did something to help them, and it would improve the looks of the city also, the downtown area anyway.
Yeah, it's a real win-win for sure.
Sure.
I don't know if there's enough room in the city of Spartanburg, but I would love it if there could be. I know they have restrictions on trailers and mobile homes and stuff, but And you might have heard of the Community First Village that started in Texas. And they're trying to set up some other ones like that, of course, around the country. I really like that model, and I wish there was some kind of housing that could happen in the city of Spartanburg for the homeless like that.
Like the tiny house movement.
It's kind of like that. Yep.
Yep, I've got all kinds of great examples of that I will share during the housing meeting. Who else? Surely we've got some more people who want to give us some ideas and tell us some spots we might want to look at, or even anybody on here who you know, represents a neighborhood, or you have needs in your neighborhood you want to talk about, or
Okay, yeah, that's me.
all right.
I'm Wilma Moore. I'm with the Highland Neighborhood Association, and we're in the middle of redeveloping Highland, where we've done the master plan for Highland, and that was where I put my first pen as a place of opportunity. So we need as much support as we can get with this comp plan in trying to do what we're trying to do over in Highland. We're only like 5 minutes from downtown.
Yes, I was actually looking at your neighborhood earlier today. It looks like y'all got done a lot of good work there on that plan.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So just don't leave us out. That's all I'm saying.
Awesome. Who else? Somebody in another neighborhood besides Highland? Oh, I've got a question. So, David, can you tell me what is in the background of your picture? That is so intriguing.
Show us all.
That's actually a museum in Chicago called the Wonder Museum. It's a bunch of CDs.
Oh,
that
wow.
they turned into like an interactive display.
That's really cool.
So that's actually a good segue to another point that I didn't make about something we should see. I don't know if anyone's looked closely at the instructions on this mapping exercise, but we put some bonus points down at the bottom. You're not limited to only putting markers in Spartanburg. While we would definitely like to see as many as possible in Spartanburg so that we can, address the issues that are happening in your city, you could also put a something we should see pin somewhere else anywhere in the world. If there is something like a museum or like a great street or a great building or the example that you just mentioned, the Community First Village in Texas, you can go put that marker on that place somewhere else in the world so that you can share it with other people and we can see it and know that maybe that's something that you think could work in Spartanburg. So that's sort of our bonus points is go put a marker somewhere else.
I've got another question. I see Arizona Hearn on here. Arizona, where are you from? Are you from Arizona? Tennessee. Get out. That's where I am. It was on the chat, sorry.
I think there's also a question in the chat, Brian.
Oh, great. Let's see.
I can't see the chat right now because I'm sharing my screen. So
There was one previous one that we hadn't gotten to yet.
Oh, give it up.
From Arizona too. She asked, as far as public education goes, do we think the schools, zoning, land use, and other things are equitable?
I don't know yet. We'll have to look into that. What should, anything in particular we need to check out?
I'll go ahead and unmute myself now. I was up and about. I'm not familiar with like the high schools and stuff around here because I'm so new. But I know back home that was something, we knew which high schools were the poor or the trouble, stuff like that. And I work right across from Spartanburg High, and that's a gigantic school. I don't know if all the schools have that much funding or look that nice and new. I don't know if people make assumptions about, who graduated from those schools and stuff like that. And that's an issue that's important to me.
Awesome. Where in Tennessee do you live?
I lived in Clarksville, which is right outside of Nashville. It is 7 times bigger land-wise and 5 times bigger population-wise than Spartanburg. But I will say Spartanburg really seems to know what kind of town it is. I've been constantly surprised at how beautiful it is, the amount of community organizations that are working here. So I'm really excited that it just happens to be the year that I moved here and everybody is getting together to make a plan about it. I was also thinking, do we know how many people in Spartanburg have like reliable access to internet? Like what opportunities do they have, including, but maybe other than libraries? Because I know that's the big one people usually point to.
Yep. Yeah, we've actually been looking at that. Natalie, do we ever pin that number down about how many people have internet access in the city?
I do not have that number, but we can delve into that through some of our data sources.
Yeah, we were
a
looking
bit of a data trawl.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were looking into that because when we started realizing the equity issues related to doing online outreach, we thought, first, well, not everyone has access to internet, and then we thought, well, how many people don't, and what do they have access to? So we started trying to research that as well. So, but it's something we're interested in as well. This is great. I like that. I start asking people random questions and then they share stuff with us.
It looks like on the chat, we have another good location for an opportunity pin.
Okay.
Someone said, like to see the vacant Save-A-Lot on Church Street be filled with something.
Yes.
Groceries.
Well, there really aren't any groceries, big grocery stores at all near downtown.
Yeah.
You have to go all the way out to the end of the Asheville Highway or all the way down Union Street or out West Main Street. But
yeah, and that's a tricky one too.
You have to help me get there.
Oh, and to navigate there?
Yep.
All right, I'll be quiet while you look for it. So is he
Or
it's directly across the street from Carver Junior High School, or I think it's called Carver Middle School now.
Nope, not in San Francisco.
Nope.
Becky, the address is 550 South Church Street.
Thank you.
I believe that's the correct one. Anybody more familiar than me, please correct if that's not right.
If they really wanted to help downtown Spartanburg, they'd get something like a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. It would really revitalize the area.
Is this the location? No.
If you'll move the map northward. That's my dog, sorry. It's that shopping center on
Right
the
here?
left. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So place of opportunity. This is a vacant grocery store now?
It's something new is there over and over and over. We need a really high-end grocery store right there.
Well, one of the challenges that we find in, when we're looking at, because nearly every city we work in, people say, oh, we'd love to have a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. That's the other one I was here. Or people say, we'd like to have, healthy food close by because we've got a food desert going on. That's as, inexpensive as possible. Either of those two, interests, it's a struggle because when these grocery stores are located, or any type of retail for that matter, but grocery stores as well, the first thing they do is they start pulling up data about the city, and then they say, okay, well, what is the median income? Who's living here? Who's that? And so it's like the grocery stores leave not because they just want to abandon the neighbors. They leave because they weren't, hitting their profitability numbers that they're looking for. And so getting creative and like figuring out how do we overcome the, sort of their formula that they use to decide where to put a store. And, we may never be able to. And so now what's option B? What do we do? What are some ways that we start to, you could look at, hey, we've got, great farmland around us, people are growing food and all that, maybe we start to look at more of a neighborhood scale farmers market as an option. Or so cities all the time invest in various things that are important to them. So maybe and again, as you say, if you're sitting in the room, somebody kick me under the table if this is wrong, but obviously, the city could make a decision like, hey, we're going to do something to encourage and find a way to partner with a grocery store and get something like that in here. There's all just sort of out of the box thinking. If we can't get the typical grocery stores to come in, or they've left, and that's kind of what we've got to do to solve some of the issues. Because usually a downtown grocery store in most cities, especially those that aren't that dense, has to be subsidized in some way. You'll see them as part of new mixed-use developments a lot of times, as like instead of a little fitness center in a building with condos, or it'll be a corner store or neighborhood market, whatever. And it's really just the thing, because that's what people want these days, those changing preferences. But a lot of times those that are put in that way are more kind of high end and aren't addressing some of the equity needs that we face. But to your point about Whole Foods, what I always talk about when we're talking about equity is we want it to be full scale, equitable for everybody, and all, even those who are wealthy. You think about, well, there's inequity right now, but some of the equity, basic needs have been met for those people, but equity in quality of life and preferences, and how people would like to live in the city. I want it to be a place that meets everybody's needs, no matter where they are in life. Because if you have just one thing, used to, the strategy was, everybody who is living, in poverty, below the poverty line, or has, needs government subsidy, that's all going to be right here. And here's a huge government subsidized housing development. And that's, it's really not best practices anymore in planning, and so if the strategy in the city was to only meet those needs to the exclusion of other needs, then we've also we're imbalanced in the other direction. A good example of that was we were working in a city. They had a great affordable housing program. Every new development had to have a certain percentage of the units in it be affordable. And as a result, the city ended up with lots of $1 million penthouses and lots of affordable housing. But all the stuff in the middle, there was a huge gap. And so unless you were below the poverty line or you were rich, you couldn't live in that city. And that's not good either. And so how do we figure it out across the full spectrum?
So I want to be mindful of people's time. I know that we said we were going to wrap this up at 8 o'clock. I apologize that we started a little bit late.
And I talked a lot too long, sorry.
But I also don't want to miss out on any opportunities if anybody else has anything that they want to share. And I know we've also got other team members that may have questions. I don't know if Chris or Trip or Chance, if you have any questions for the folks while we've got them here. And then one last thing that we want to do, and we did this on our kickoff meeting, if any of you were on that as well. Again, no pressure whatsoever. I know it's 8 o'clock at night, but if you would like to turn your camera on so that we can take a group screenshot, so we have one group photo, that would be great. Usually when we're doing these meetings in person, we're able to take a lot of photos and see who is here. I see Natalia's got her dog ready. Nope, nobody has to, but if you'd like to turn your camera on, we'll take a screenshot in just a minute.
Becky, this is Chance. I just wanted to say, I've been listening all night, and I think equity has come up like a lot throughout this conversation, and I'm just looking forward to hearing from the community and hearing about some of the things that you want. I was particularly tuned in. I saw the question about access to veterinary medicine, which was new to me too. I don't think I've ever heard anybody really talk about that, but also the conversation about people who are experiencing homelessness, and how does the city really help resolve that issue, not just just tools that people can use, but how the comp plan can help resolve some of those issues. So really interested in hearing what you all have to say. I don't necessarily have any questions because I think going to be forthcoming as well.
Great.
Hey, Brad, did we lose your co-pilot to bedtime?
I think he's moved to playing with Legos for a little bit.
Tell him to come back. Tell him we're gonna take a group photo.
All right, I will. I'll let him know.
Well, we do technically need to ask for permission if we are going to have a minor in the photo, because any of the photos that we capture here may be used in the plan. So
Very good. You have my permission as his parent.
Okay, so yes,
all right.
before you allow a minor in the photo.
All right, let's do it.
All right, everybody smile. Oh, wait, I lost Natalia.
There we go.
There we go. All right, got it.
Good job, bud.
Awesome. That was a great smile, Martin. Thank you.
Playing Legos, actually.
All right. Well, this has been great. I appreciate you all participating in this unusual format. Hopefully next time we'll have even smaller squares on the screen, because we'll add to our numbers and get more and more people to come. Remember, Plan Spartanburg is a plan for the future of your city. Like, I don't know what could be more important than that. I don't know what people had going on tonight that was more important, but when you go back home, you need to call up your friends and family and tell them, hey, now's our chance to get it right, to do what we want for the future, to get our voice heard. And we truly are here to listen. That's literally our job at this part of the project, is to listen and to just pull out information from all of you, your stories, your experiences, your challenges, your struggles, your hopes and dreams and aspirations. So there's nothing more important than this right now. So thank you for coming and giving us your time. We appreciate it.
We hope to see these same faces in more of the meetings.
We'll see you in the morning. Technical meeting 1.
All right, good night.